I was born in the north of England, in Preston Royal Infirmary. My oldest brother, Ben, became a Royal Navy carrier helicopter pilot. He would come and fly his helicopter and land it in the field across from the river where we lived. And I remember going to see the helicopter and just admiring this thing that my brother had arrived in. And a lot of the other kids from the village came up and I said, "Oh, that's my brother's helicopter." And they were like, "Absolutely no way, stop BSing." And I remember just feeling immensely proud as my brother came up in his flight suit and proceeded to get into the helicopter and fly off. Well, I wanted to fly. I knew I wanted to fly. I knew I loved that sensation. I applied and said, my brother does this, blah, 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 I would like to join. And I remember that one of the Navy recruiters looked at me in my glasses and said, "We don't accept people with physical defects for that role, I'm afraid. You'd have to be a navigator." And in my confident 17-year-old head, a navigator sounded pretty crap compared to being the pilot. Apologies to any navigators watching, because obviously now I'm in my 50s. I realise what a critical role it is, but at the time I was like, no thanks, So at this point, I'd always had a craving for flight, and I signed up with a paragliding school in Abergavenny, and we were at a site called Blaenavon, I remember, which had a big long ridge above a disused mining site. And I remember just the first moment making my first low hops and that sensation, and it was almost like it distilled all the other flying experiences into this incredibly pure sensation of flight. To be able to take off on this simple contraption effectively made of cloth, string and a little seat, and to be able to harness the natural forces of the air and to climb up to 6, 7, 8,000 feet in a natural thermal and just see and feel a part of everything. I think there's going to be few things that can match it. Within a few days, I made very good friends with one of the instructors in the school, a chap called John Hendy, if he ever watches this. I thought, I want to be a paragliding instructor, really. This is the thing for me. Bracket that within the thing that all forms of aviation are quite risky. And I certainly don't think, statistically, paragliding is less dangerous than horse riding or skiing. But I think also it is worthwhile making sure that you have got your family on board so that you're not causing anyone stress through your fun and enjoyment of the sport. But the most recent serious accident I had was a simple thing like falling off some scaffolding. And the scaffolding flipped on me and I fell onto the neighbour's roof. But I caught my elbow on the rim of the neighbour's skylight, and I didn't know what had happened at first. I just stood up and I thought, oh, I'm okay, because I banged off various bits of scaffolding like an old pinball machine, ping pong, ping boom, boof, onto the roof. And I thought, oh, my head's a bit sore, my hip's a bit sore, and I thought I might have broken my hip. And I thought, no, I can move, that's okay. I thought, no, I'm not, I don't think I've got concussion, I think I'm okay. And then suddenly I realised that my arm was just flopping. And I looked down at it and it was just flopping about like a sausage or a bit of old meat. And then I just saw it going darker, 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 and then blood, it was like a cartoon, just started pouring out of my sleeve. I knew I had problems. After the elbow, I got back home and I was really trying to stay still a lot, and I had my arm in this thing called a fixator. The first time I'd left the house after it, I was taking my dog for a walk, and I was nearly home. And my dog, it just still feels surreal to me as I talk about it. And so I'm walking home, feeling pleased that I'm mobile again and I'd left the house, I'd survived this elbow thing. And my dog started having a massive cardiac event on the high street. It was really hard to get her to the vets because I couldn't drive. I got a friend then. It took longer than I would have liked. We got her to the vets. And they told us there was no saving her. It was a catastrophic terminal cardiac event, and they wanted to give her the injection to, as I would still say, send her to the Rainbow Bridge. And we taught this dog to say, "I love you." And if we said, "I love you" to the dog, it would go, "Oh, oh." And it was not that long after COVID. It was just after COVID, just after the second lockdown ended. And so we went into the vet's room where she was still having this massive cardiac event and thrashing and in pain. And you know, we lifted our face masks, and the dog said, "I love you." And then she got sent to the Rainbow Bridge. The straw that broke the camel's back. It was like, at this stage then, I've nearly died three times. I've seen 6 sudden and unpleasant deaths. And then the loss of that beautiful animal, I went into what I now realise is uncontrollable grief. And I just, after always thought myself as a strong man, you could cope with most things, I just couldn't stop crying. I just cried. Maybe it took me 2 months. Having been involved in extreme sports and chasing adrenaline and a really full bore lifestyle, I hadn't really thought enough about mental health. And so I was very lucky that I was able to begin the training I'm on now with the local school of psychotherapy. But I want to specialise in trauma. That's what I feel like my mission goals. I want to be dealing with extreme trauma and helping people in the community when they need it to be there for people. You know, I've gotten to the top of a mountain, and maybe now I don't take as many risks and I don't have that urge to do acrobatics as much, but I can be having just a simple flight and just really appreciate the simple joy of it without having to push for the extra adrenaline so much. I would say that I'm a survivor.